Welcome to episode 186 of Stageworthy. I'm your host, Phil Rickaby. Stageworthy is a podcast about people in Canadian theatre featuring conversations with actors, directors, playwrights, and more. As I said, this is episode 186, and that means that in a few weeks, we will be at the big episode 200. I'm going to do something special for that episode, so stay tuned for that. I also want to remind you that with my friends at Simple Truth Theatre, I will be bringing my solo play, The Commandment, to this year's Toronto Fringe. The Commandment is about what happens when an atheist discovers that he's been chosen to deliver God's new commandment, and will be at the Tarragon Extra Space. You can find out all about it in your Fringe listings or by following me on my social links on Twitter and Instagram at Phil Rickaby, and you can also find details on simpletruththeatre.com. And as always, if you want to drop me a line about the podcast, you can find it on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at StageworthyPod, and you can find the website at stageworthypodcast.com. Now, let's talk about Today Takes. Today Takes is an app and website that offers easy and affordable access to a wide variety of must-see cultural performances, from plays and musicals to dance, opera, comedy, immersive experiences, and beyond. Let's open up the app and see what we have this week. Oh, you can really tell that the Luminato Festival is right around the corner because there are so many Luminato events here. Look for the Luminato logo and you will see the Obeah Opera, Triptych, Eyes of One on Another, Hell's Fury, and so much more. I also want to point out that the Full Light of Day, which has rush tickets starting next weekend, Full Light of Day is a co-production with Canadian Stage and Luminato. Today Takes makes ticket buying simple, and you can purchase tickets in less than 30 seconds. And starting today, you can get $5 off your first purchase on Today Takes if you use the code STAGEWORTHY when you check out. Get it on iOS and Android, or go to todaytakes.com and remember to use the code STAGEWORTHY when you make your first purchase on the app. So this is the second of my Toronto Fringe episodes of the season. Remember that for the next few weeks, I will be talking to performers and creators with shows at the Toronto Fringe. And don't forget my regular Fringe Roundup on both of the Saturdays of the Toronto Fringe, where I will sit down with a group of artists and talk about their Fringe experience to date, what shows they've loved, and so much more. Those episodes are recorded and released by noon on each of the Saturdays of the Fringe. And this week, my guest is Jennifer Busuttil, the creator and performer of Getting Better, which you will find at the Tarragon Solo Room at the 2019 edition of the Toronto Fringe. Let's just jump in,
okay.
And I wanna like tell me about your show.
Okay, so my show is about my head injury. So in 2014, I had like a blow to the head, and we're still devising it right now, so it's not like completely finished or anything. So it's about like the emotional journey that I go through, like trying to get better. Yeah.
What's it called?
It's called Get Better.
Oh, Get Better. Oh yeah, that's an excellent name for it. So what made you decide that you wanted to tell this story on stage?
I've never seen anything like about head injuries aside from movies, and everything's showing like a doctor's kind of view of it. And I think so many people have head injuries. Yeah. Like after I had my big one, so many people went up to me after and they're like, "Oh, my brother had one," or like, "I have a friend who had one. Like, I know what you're going through," or like they didn't really understand what was happening.
Yeah.
I think within like the last 5-10 years, like people are understanding things a little bit more, which is great. But I really just wanted to show like the emotional side of what's happening, because I think the stories that are being told, or like the facts that are being told about it, are just from like the doctor side and like what we're learning. Yeah.
How long ago was the head injury?
So it was in 2014.
Okay.
And before that, I've had 4 major concussions before that I kind of brushed off.
I mean, isn't that what we've been taught to do about concussions? It's just a concussion.
Yes.
No big deal. It's like, a brain injury.
Take a week off. Like,
take some time off. Don't wake up every hour. But you know what?
Exactly.
Just shake it off, which is kind of a terrible thing to do. it is a brain injury, you know?
Yes, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
And I think, I mean, even for myself, I was a fitness coach at the time, and I used to work at Circability, which is like a circus gym in the city. And I used to train like circus a lot, and I was coaching there as well. And I hit my head on the job there.
This was the big one?
This was, yeah,
the last one. This is the last one, okay.
Yeah. And it's like so interesting because you're always taught, like I grew up as a gymnast as well. It's like you push through the pain sort of thing. Yeah. So that was something that I was like trying to do, is like push through it. Like I have to work, I have to do all these things. And then you sort of reach a point where you can't really push through it.
What was your, like, what made you realize that you couldn't push through it anymore?
One of my biggest sort of symptoms was my vision. So even just focusing on someone was so painful.
Right.
Yeah, so I would just get really overwhelmed, and it's, some people would say painful, but it's almost like it's so annoying that, like, someone poking you over and over, it's like this pull feeling. So yeah, I had to stop working for a while because of that.
Wow. So that was one of your symptoms. What other symptoms did you have?
Lots of brain fog. Like, I would forget even my friends' names. And just feeling really, really slow. Like, so slow. I don't even know how to explain it. Like, there's this dead space. Like, when you're talking to people.
Did you feel like that was that just something you were sensing, or did other people sense that you were talking slowly or moving through this fog as well?
Right. So I would talk to my friends and I would tell them that I would feel that way. And they'd be like, I don't notice anything really different. But also I wasn't seeing people as much. Once I realized that I couldn't work, which was after like the first like week of trying to push through it, I spent a lot of time like just at home alone in like pitch black.
Oh, I can imagine. Yeah. Like headaches and stuff. So you must have just been like, I don't want to do anything.
Yeah, and you're bored, so it's like I try to text my friends and then looking at my phone would hurt.
Oh my god.
So then I try to like watch TV and then I would just try to listen to TV and all this stuff.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Well, thankfully I had roommates. I wasn't like completely...
No, but still, like, it's... I can imagine it's pretty isolating.
Yeah, so that's what the show is a lot about. Yeah. That's interesting.
And so this is something that isn't often talked about from the patient's point of view. What are some of the things? So, I mean, you mentioned that like you're still sort of like developing this show. So, what's that process been like?
So it's really interesting. When I had the head injury, when I was physically going through it, I tried to write some things down because I knew I might not remember. Yeah. Because the days would just go by fast. Like everything was sort of a blur. Yeah, so I tried to write things down as best I could. And so we did have some like journal entries that we have been playing with and sort of devising with in the rehearsal process. As well, I still do have some of the symptoms from my head injury. So really just like digging in and exploring those a little bit more. I also really wanted the show to be, accessible to people that have invisible injuries. Not just head injuries. So just I was exploring like some mental health things as well. And we're using a lot of movement in the show. Just been exploring a lot with that.
Is the kind of movement like does that affect the remains of the head injury, or do you is that a struggle at all, or is that something that you've managed to get over? So
I definitely cannot be as physical as I was before. Yeah, I used to train like 4 hours a day at least. To be a circus artist, you need to be training like constantly to be in that shape. And I also went to Randolph Academy, so I have like a dance background as well. So I'm not doing like nearly as much. I think I like exercise like maybe once a week. So this show's been really challenging and exciting to see like where I can push my body now.
Are you doing more than you thought you were able to? Are you not quite able to do as much as you thought?
It's interesting. When I first had the head injury, there were several days where I was like, whatever, like I'm just gonna like go for a run. And I would like go for a run and feel completely fine. And then about 5 hours later, I would get like flooded with all these symptoms. Like couldn't leave like the bed for like 2 days after that.
Wow.
So it was really hard to get back into it because while I was doing things, I couldn't really feel that it was like going to be harmful until after the fact.
Right.
So it's been a very slow process getting back into like my physical body.
Yeah.
But like I'm in a place now where I just know to take it like as easy as possible.
Yeah.
And in rehearsal we're taking it as easy as possible. But I do think that I express myself with like movement because of my background like more easily sometimes. Yeah.
I mean, I think a lot of us in theater do. Like, I have friends who are like, "Why do you gesture so much?" You know, and I'm like, I don't know. I just do. I've even noticed here that like you're constantly moving as we converse, which is again sort of like a similar thing. The movement helps to get what you're saying across, I think, or at least that's how we perceive it.
Yeah, totally.
And if you've spent a lot of time doing gymnastics and circus, then absolutely it's important for your body to move. We've mentioned those things. You mentioned Randolph, and one of the things I like to do is to talk to people about their theater origin story. And yours sounds interesting because you've got theater, you've got gymnastics, you've got circus. So what's that path look like for you?
From the very beginning?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So I grew up in Windsor, which borders Detroit. And my parents used to usher at like the Fox Theater and like all these big theaters in Detroit. And I grew up like going to shows with them while they were usher. I would just like sit in the audience. And I think that's what made me love theater right away. Like the first show I would see every year was the Christmas Spectacular with the Rockettes.
Okay.
And that was like the most inspiring.
Oh my God, that would like come through and it would be the big, like the line kick and the whole,
animals, like there were camels coming down the aisle. So that was really inspiring to me. And I really loved sports. So it was kind of that thing growing up where I had to pick if I wanted to do like theater or sports.
Yeah.
And for a long time I chose sports.
Okay.
So I did gymnastics for a long time. And I think sort of doing your routines did feel like performing in a way. Like not necessarily a character. And I knew it was something I loved doing. I ended up doing some community theater. And when I was in high school, I was deciding if I wanted to do writing or like go to school for theater. And in my mind, I thought like writing's a more secure job. Is what I thought. So I was like, I'll be a writer. And then we went on a class trip to see a show at Stratford. We saw To Kill a Mockingbird, and I completely changed my mind. I was like,
really?
Yeah, it blew my mind. Like seeing the kids on stage was so inspiring. I was like, I could even be doing this now. Like, this is amazing.
So right up until then, you were like writing, and then you left there and you were like, no.
No, 100% flip. Like, I was always taking like drama class and stuff in high school anyways as my elective, but that like was the real switch.
Yeah.
And
so, I mean, a lot of times, you know, when we're in high school and things like that, we're thinking, we're doing plays and things like that, you know, we're sort of toying with it. And then at that time where they start talking to you about your future, a lot of people don't make the choice to do theater as a career. Do you remember the point where you were like, this can be a career for me?
I don't know. I feel like I've always kind of been a dreamer like that. And since when I was like 5, I was telling my mom I wanted to be an actress and I didn't really know what it meant.
Right.
You know?
Okay.
Maybe it was seeing that show and seeing the people on the stage, like the actors talk to us before, like the more senior actors. We had about like 5 of them just doing a talk back before. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so I think that's when it really clicked. Like,
so all of a sudden, like,
real.
that's great because then now they're like real people and you've like heard them speak as themselves rather than just as their characters, which is awesome. Yeah. So how did you find yourself at Randolph? Did you have other schools you were thinking of, or was Randolph the only one for you?
So I did the Introduction to Performing Arts careers at George Brown. When I first moved to Toronto, I actually did, I'm not going chronological here. I did the continuing education at George Brown for acting. I didn't really know sort of how I wanted to get into it. I thought that I would just move here and take a few classes and kind of see.
Yeah.
So I did the continuing education, tried auditioning a little bit, but I had no sense of the industry. I was very confused about how it worked. So I took about 3 years off just making money and doing those continuing education classes. And then I did the Impact program at George Brown. I found that to be like a little bit useful, but I still felt like I wasn't really like digging in. So I auditioned for George Brown, National Theatre School, and Randolph. And Randolph was sort of like my safety, and I did it first.
Okay.
But I realized in the audition, like, I love dancing, and, like, I've always loved singing, so why wouldn't I do this? I guess I just didn't really explore the option of it.
Yeah.
And I got in there, so I was very happy to go there.
Did you feel like something felt like at home, or was it just the fact that here you would be able to do all those things?
I think I always think about things, I think, strategically, and I was like, in this industry, I'll have a better shot if I can, like, sing, dance, and act.
Okay. Yeah.
So I definitely did think of it like that.
Sure.
To be honest, yeah. And I wasn't sure, like, I feel like I was so young, even though I took 3 years off. I wasn't sure how I felt about classical theater, and I feel like George Brown, like, focuses more on that. I wasn't sure. I just really wasn't sure.
Yeah. Okay. And then circus. How did circus come into this? There's a lot of things coming into this. So
a lot.
Yeah.
Okay. So growing up, one of the coaches in my gym, he started a like circus sort of company in Windsor, and he has since moved to the States. I'm not even sure what the name of the company is. But we also had silks in our gym because of that. And one of his best friends was in Cirque du Soleil. So that sort of was just always in my mind as a possibility, as something I could do, like, from gymnastics. Like, that's what retired gymnasts do, is they, like, are in Cirque du Soleil. Like, that would be so amazing. And I always wanted to do it. And then when I moved to Toronto, first year here, I saw an ad in Now magazine for a circus class. Okay. And I was like, oh, like, I have to try this. Like, just go once. And I, like, fell in love. Oh, yeah? Fell in love with it. And I just, like, didn't turn back from there.
What was it that you were doing? Like, was it silks, or was it something, like, what was your thing in circus?
So I actually trained in silks, trapeze, and aerial hoop.
Okay.
Yeah, so did it all. Wow. Well, not all at all, but yeah.
Wow.
I was just inspired by all of it.
And how did you start teaching?
So I was training there, I think 3 days a week. And because I had been training coaching gymnastics, they started a kids program there. So the head coach there, Heather Kentner, she asked if I wanted to start coaching the kids classes. And then I finished all of the levels for, like, the silks, trapeze, and hoop. So she's like, you can teach the adults now too. And so that's sort of how it started. Wow. Yeah. And
that became, was that your primary way of making a living, teaching? Or was that, like, how did that relate to the whole theater life?
Right. So, like, with some of my friends there, we would, like, create acts, and I have a friend who had, like, a theater company, with physical theater and circus, and just integrating all this stuff, and I was getting so excited, right, like, fresh from theater school at this point, and seeing all the, like, opportunities there where I wanted to keep that skill, as well as do theater, but things like Heart of Robin Hood had just come out, like, incorporating circus in theater, and I wanted to start creating things like that as well. I was the artistic director of the kids program there, so we would do, like, a theater show with circus in it.
Nice.
Yeah. So I felt like I was still working in the industry, although it was kind of closed off a little bit. Because it was mostly just parents of kids coming to see those shows, but still. Yeah.
I mean, the thing is that in that sort of thing, it's still theater, and it's, in fact, in a certain way, there's a certain, I think, amount of unbridled passion in kids, because they don't know they can't do something, right?
Yes, that's so true. Yeah. I think the biggest thing I learned from them is none of them were scared to fail. Like, especially the, like, preteens and younger, they weren't scared to fail. They just wanted to try, be silly. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, they also haven't realized they can be hurt yet.
Yes, that's true, too. In a lot of cases. They're so brave.
They're so brave. They're like, so brave. Things that, like, now, I remember a couple years ago, I was like, I'm going to learn how to rollerblade. And I got on rollerblades, and I was like, if I fall, I'm probably going to break something super seriously. And I got off the rollerblades, and I didn't get back on them, because I'm not as young as I was. And I'm very conscious of the fact that I can get hurt. you know? And so but when I was younger, I totally would have just been on those things and just like thinking, I'm going to figure it out.
And I think also, one thing I know, like for myself in circus and gymnastics, I would be so brave until I hurt myself once. And then every time you're like, oh, I could hurt myself, like you start to lose that bravery because of that.
You know, what's interesting about that is like if you've ever been in a show and you've forgotten a line and you've done that once, and then the next night you remember that's where you forgot the line. You so concentrate on it, and that you can get to the same point where you have trouble with the line, right?
Once you know that it's possible that you could do that. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, and it becomes like this whole thing. You know, there are actors like you know, there's the Laurence Olivier story where he was like, had so much stage fright that he was telling people at one point, like, don't look at me on stage. I'm not going to be able to do this if you look at me. Yeah, totally freaky.
Yeah, that's so freaky.
So now that did you get in on the lottery, or were you?
In the lottery.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, one of the lucky few.
Yes.
Yeah. Did you go to the lottery?
No, so actually my friend and co-producer, Hannah Wayne Phillips, she actually got the spot.
Okay.
And she was just producing a show at the same time. And she's like, I know you have a story. Do you want to like go in together and tell like your story?
Nice.
So at this point, I hadn't prepared like anything.
Sure,
I hadn't started writing, or even like I told her in passing that I had this idea for a show.
Yeah.
I hadn't really like dug in, so it was really exciting and like lit a fire underneath me.
At what point did you start writing after the lottery?
So I started looking through old journals. And during my head injury, I actually like wrote a poetry zine. Okay. Called Buzzkill, which is the name of my company. So I was like, that's when I started like looking through things. I have never written a play before, mostly just like poetry. Like I've always journaled. So it really started with just a lot of journaling of really trying to like get back to that time and like dig into where I am now. Yeah.
Was that journey, like getting back into where you were then, was that at all difficult? Was it a hard thing to do, or?
It was very difficult.
Yeah?
It's still difficult. The show now we're trying to make more fiction because it is still so fresh. I didn't realize, I thought that it would be easier to act in a piece that's like so authentically me. It's actually way harder, which I didn't realize. So yeah, we're making some of it fiction to make it. It's super hard to, because when it's all just you, there's a certain amount of like, how vulnerable do you want to be in front of an audience, and how much of yourself do you want to put out there? Exactly.
Yeah. And how much do you want to go back to that time every time you perform the show? Was it emotionally difficult, or? Emotionally difficult. And we realized at some points in rehearsal that I had, because of how hard it was during the actual experience, and I've like stronger now because of it, it's almost harder to get into it because I've moved past that. And it's really myself. So yeah, I found that harder than if it's a separate character to like dig into that. Did you find it at all difficult to fictionalize? Like, have you struggled with fictionalizing any of it? Because it is your story, and then like choosing what to fictionalize, and will people get confused about what's fiction and what's not, and things like that? Like, how do you approach that?
We're struggling with that right now. That's really what we're working on right now, because I want it to be like obviously me and my story. I don't want it to like seem fake, and I want it to be able to relate to people. So if it's too much fiction,
So this is all pretty new, trying to figure that out then. Yeah.
We just did a run through like last week, and we realized like we needed to make it a little bit more fiction.
Wow.
So
okay.
Yeah.
How much are you rehearsing right now? Like how often?
2 times a week.
2 times a week?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. That's not too much. Is that gonna increase as you get closer, or do you feel like that's because for Fringe, like if you spread it out over a bit of time, you can get used to it, and
we're hoping just for 2 times a week, and then we'll add as we need, of course. But that's the plan right now.
Nice. Since this is your first show, what's been the most challenging part about either writing or producing or all of that stuff? Like, what's been the hardest part?
I think the hardest part for writing, I thought that when I first would start writing about it, that it would just finally flow out of me. And all these things I've been holding on to would just like spill out.
Sure.
And I'm realizing that it's more of like digging it out. Digging it out and pulling it out. And that has been challenging, but also I think like exciting, of course. And on the other side of that, like producing, writing, and acting in the same show is a lot, and I didn't realize how much work it would be.
Yeah.
But I'm learning so much just about like the industry in general. Realizing like how much producers are putting, like I'm not even producing it by myself, and I'm realizing how much work like every sort of piece of the machine.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. As you're digging and pulling stuff out, has that all been you, or have you been working with your partner, your director to do that, or has it just been you trying to dig deep and find it?
For the writing, it's like just been me trying to do that. And then in rehearsal, it's been really great. The director is one of my close friends that I went to theater school, Callie Presniak. So the scenes where I'm clearly like holding back and have some walls, she's really been like digging and pulling things out of me. Nice. Even when I'm like uncomfortable, like we're friends, so we've talked about it and like it's a safe space, but yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if you found this, but I found, because I wrote this solo piece, and I figured as I was writing it, I'm writing it. Like, I can learn this. It's easy. Because that came from me, right? And then when I started doing it, I was like, oh, that's not easy at all. It's like learning a new piece, because I figured out that the writing and the learning come from different parts of the brain.
Oh, totally separate. Yeah. Like figuring out, I mean, that's what's actually really helped with the writing is when I can't figure out, like, what is my intention for this scene? Yeah. It's like, oh, I've written like 10 of them. Like, it's really hard to focus here as an actor because the writing isn't focused. So it's been so rewarding as an actor, like being able to write, like, I can sort of make it more direct and just get my point across more.
Yeah, it's interesting to be able to, as the writer, to be able to approach your own words as an actor, and to, as you speak it, realize that, wait a second, I need to focus this or make a change or whatever. Because I know that I was finding when I was having difficulty learning it, that there was a reason for that,
Exactly.
And because I'm the writer, I can make those changes, which you can't always do in the space, like in another show.
Yeah, definitely fortunate to have.
Yeah. About producing, what's been the biggest challenge there? Like, what have you found? What did you learn that you really had no idea about?
That I had no idea about. I think really my production manager, and I didn't really understand. Honestly, I never knew the difference between a production manager and producer. I had no idea. So really just like learning the role more. Sure, yeah. Which is so, like, I've been in shows before, but not really understanding the difference of like whose job is whose job. Yeah. What I've actually really loved is like curating sort of like the Instagram and the poster design and all that, like from the same vision as like the writer, is so fun to me. Yeah.
Oh, have you finished your poster?
Finished the poster. Yeah. I'm fortunate to my partner is a graphic designer, so I could just tell him exactly what my vision was. Oh, okay, nice. He's really talented, can make that come to life.
Awesome. Yeah. And that's been like and translating, because you've got your poster and then you've got the postcard, which is sort of like another thing. And sometimes I sometimes find like, I got this perfect on the poster, I don't know how to get that onto the smaller thing, which is always a bit of a challenge. Did you really lean on him for that, or?
Yeah, he's so talented, so it's really easy. Like, he definitely understands like the vision and my personal vibe as an artist. Nice. So that was really easy to translate, I think. Yeah.
Here's an intro, and I'll get to why I'm at. Are you an extrovert or an introvert?
I think I'm more of an introvert. Okay. Yeah.
The reason why I ask is, for me as an introvert, one of the hardest things about Fringe is the promotion. Yes. The not like, if it was all like Instagram posts and things like that, I'd be cool with it. Mm-hmm. But it's flyering lines. Yes. That is my biggest, even as I'm saying it, it's like I can sort of feel like the sweat starting to, like, I'm just getting like, yeah, so if I'm going to do that line and flyer and talk to people, I probably have to like sit down with my head between my knees for a good 10, 15 minutes before I do it. Have you ever had to do anything like that before?
So that's one of the good things, or like one of the benefits from my head injury is I know when I need to rest.
Okay.
And I think I'm really gentle with myself about that sort of thing. So like I know that I probably could work that day. I'll book it off work. Like I'll have my alone time before these things and after. Definitely the sort of like schmoozing in the fringe tent is something that's going to be really hard for me, but I'm really excited for the challenge.
I hear you about that. It's always like, it's flyering lines. It's like the whole fringe tent thing. It's always so stressful for me as an introvert just to get out there. I feel so awkward.
Yeah, same. But I really believe in the show and what it's about. And I'm just like hoping that I'll reach, the right audience. I'll find the people that, have head injuries or know someone. And I'm hoping that'll bring people.
It's probably a lot of people that maybe you don't realize how many people have somebody who's had a head injury and really sort of is looking, like, wants to talk about it or see something about it. Yeah. I mean, since we were talking about concussions and everybody like pushing through concussions, like everybody knows somebody who has at least one of those. Yes. If not more. Anybody who ever played a sport has a few of those, Yeah. What's the thing that excites you the most about doing the show at Fringe? Okay.
At Fringe specifically?
At all. Anything. Let's open it up for doing the show anywhere.
Okay. It's so terrifying to me. I think that's what's so exciting. I've never been in a one-woman show. And I was scared, and my friend asked me, and I think I'm just trying to say yes.
Okay.
So that's what's exciting. It's new. It's personal. I feel like I'm really just like revealing myself, and that's what's so terrifying and exciting. Yeah.
What is it about doing a solo show that scares you in particular?
So you were talking about this earlier. From my head injury, when I was first auditioning, I would forget lines sometimes.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Which was something that never happened to me, like ever. Yeah. I think this is like a real test to myself, and I want to prove it to myself. That if I can do a solo show at Fringe, like having recovered from this injury, then I can do like anything. Yeah.
Have you felt like you've been holding yourself back in recent years after the injury, or?
Yeah, I did take a long time off, like away from the community in general. Like it was really hard to see theater, and like because of the lighting changes and the noise. So it was hard to like sort of come back into the community in general. And I was really like holding back, I think, for a long time. It's only in the past 2 years I feel like I've been really going for it again.
Okay. So that's what excites you. Well, I guess because often I say what scares you the most, but it's the same thing with you. It sounds like that's what scares you the most as well.
Yeah, I think I think every actor sort of has that like curiosity, right? And it's scary and exciting, and that's why we sort of do what we do, or why I do what I do. Yeah.
In terms of your head injury, are you like you still have some lingering symptoms of it? Do they come back? Are they things that you're dealing with all the time, or do they come back at after certain things? What's the situation there for you?
So mostly I'll like get them when I'm stressed or tired, right? Like overworked, and like it'll be some brain fog a little bit, and mostly like vision related for me. Okay. And like I still go to vision therapy to sort of like correct those things. I think it's just like taking it day by day, just like always sort of working through it and just going easy. Yeah. On myself.
In terms of, are you able to think back and see the change in yourself between like since the injury and now? Are you able to say I was here before and now I'm here?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
I remember even just like going to a party was too like stimulating. Like going grocery shopping was too stimulating. Yeah, even just like hanging out with friends, I'd have to like recover after just like hanging out with my pals.
Yeah.
So I think, just seeing how far I've come and just being happy about that. Yeah.
I think that's something that people don't often think about a head injury is all the things that can be affected by it. That it's not just, ow, my head, that because it's your brain, it can affect everything from your vision, your memory, your moods as well. Did you find any mood issues for you? Or?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Yeah, like, I mean, everyone's different, but for me, like, I had a lot of irritability, like, way more anxious.
Right.
Like, some depression. Just so much is affected. Like, even, like, your digestion is affected. Like,
I didn't know digestion.
Yeah, I had, like, a lot of digestion problems after.
Huh.
Yeah.
Again, things that you don't think that are affected by an injury like that, you know? So now, I mean, your schedule sounds really good for Fringe.
Yeah.
Do you have a pitch for fly ring yet?
Oh, no.
There's plenty of time to come up with that. As you record this, there's plenty of time to come up with that. I'm not going to make you do one right now.
Okay.
Because that's too much, especially if you don't have one. But there's lots of time now. It's only May. There's like another month and a half before that. So plenty of time for that. Have you tried circus since? Or is that like out of the question for you?
For me, part of leaving like the circus gym was really just moving on from the industry, like the circus industry too. Because I couldn't do it anymore, coaching there was really hard.
I can imagine.
Yeah, it was really hard to be in the gym every day. And
Did you really love it when you were doing it? Was it like something that you really loved doing?
I really loved it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Then it would be really hard to be around it if you can't do it.
Exactly, yeah. And like, it was hard, but like a lot of my community was there and like that's how I would hang out with those people is by like training together.
Yeah.
And seeing like other circus shows and not being able to do it, like I just really want to perform and so not being able to do that was really hard.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like I've always been really inspired by dialogue-driven theater. So I kind of took it also as my chance to sort of just focus on that. Like that's what kind of got me interested. Yeah, seeing that Stratford show was really what lit that fire. So
do you think because I've had things that have drawn me away from straight up theater in my life. Do you think that maybe the circus was keeping you away from, was a different passion that kept you away from the dialogue driven, the straight up theater, or was that because it sounds like you were doing one and not the other more than anything else?
Yeah, like I was doing maybe 1 or 2 shows a year. I think training circus and working there was making me feel like I was keeping busy, but really I think it was a little bit of a distraction. Yeah, and it's hard to, like, I wanted to put everything into it, but, you're scared. So I was like, I'll put everything into this instead.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, absolutely. At what point did you come to that realization, like, after the injury and just sort of go, oh, wait, there's this thing that I've been ignoring, and what was that like?
Yeah, I definitely realized that that's what I was ignoring. I think I was scared. I really think that I was too scared to put everything in that because I thought that I was good at circus and like storytelling in that way. And if that's what I'm good at, then maybe I should stick to it sort of thing. But that's not the only thing I was interested in.
No, it's funny how fear makes us find a thing. I'm good at this. I can do this. Like they can be secure in this when there's the thing that we really want to do that that is easily sidetracked by because we want it so much.
Exactly. I almost wanted it too much. That it was too precious to like risk anything for it.
Yeah. Has working on this show convinced you more about that it's worth risking stuff on? Like what have you learned so far from this show?
I've learned that like, I love the process of theater making. It's not just about that finished product. So, like, for me, I don't know, I like to indulge in that. I mean, that's what makes it different from film too, right?
Yeah.
Like, is that whole process of being in the rehearsal hall and like, I like devising and creating with people. We're like collaborating with our sound designer too.
Nice.
Yeah, I just really like the collaboration.
Nice.
Yeah.
Sounds like you got a great team around you too for it.
Yeah, I'm really excited.
That's awesome. Now, did you find this team, or did they come with the project? Like...
So Murphy Diggin, who is my stage manager, she actually reached out to me because she saw that I won a spot for Fringe, and I was in the Fringe last year, and she was my stage manager, and I was so happy she reached out to me, and then she helped find like all the other.
Yeah. What was your show last year?
I was in All of Me.
Didn't get to see that.
Yeah. Which is also interesting because it was kind of about the brain. I played the right part of the brain.
Okay, interesting. Interesting. So the 2 years of Brain at the Fringe.
Yes.
That's awesome.
A little different this time.
But still brains all over.
Yes.
Jennifer, thank you so much. It's been a lot of fun.
Thanks so much for having me.
This has been a Homebody Productions production.